Neighbourhood Health and Safety Project Officer, and my role is to deliver projects that are in line with Council's health priorities. And currently, one of those priorities, or two of those priorities, I should say, are gender equity and the prevention of violence. And that gives me the privilege and the pleasure to be delivering events and programs and activations for the 16 Days of Activism. But before I begin, I'd like to respectfully acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land that I'm on, the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, and pay my respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging, and pay my respects to any Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander people who may be present here today. So the 16 Days of Activism is a United Nations initiative to end violence against women. For those who may not know what 16 Days of Activism is, every year around the world, people act to eliminate gender-based violence during the 16 Days of Activism, which is held from the 25th of November, which is the International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women, until the 10th of December, which is Human Rights Day. Gender inequality has been identified as a key driver of family violence and violence against women, with more equitable societies presenting fewer instances of violence. We know family violence is an issue in Moonee Valley, as it is in neighbourhoods and regions throughout Australia. At the time of writing this, so far this year, 50 Australian women have been murdered by a current or former partner. This is quite a staggering statistic. The World Health Organization has named violence against women a global health problem of epidemic proportions. And as we know, we've all been living through the COVID-19 pandemic, and what we're seeing violence against women termed is a shadow pandemic, as violence against women has spiked during the pandemic as a result of the emergency situation that we're living in. So as a part of 16 Days of Activism, we are working to encourage our community to embrace gender equality as a part of our Fair Action Plan. And you can read more about the Fair Action Plan on our website. You can also find out more about 16 Days of Activism through Respect Victoria on the state government's website. So Council have hosted a suite of events to acknowledge the 16 Days of Activism, including this event tonight, which we're so grateful for Tiff for hosting today. But what we're really going to the heart of is talking about what we can do, what it means to be an activist, to challenge gender norms, gender stereotypes, gender inequalities that buy into prevention of violence against women. And really we're targeting that message towards people who don't identify as women, so particularly men, because they play a part in ending violence against women. And violence is more than physical violence. It can include disrespect, fear, control towards women. And being an ally is really about being aware of your own privilege and power and taking action together with women to end violence and create a more equal society that values and respects women. So this year in Melbourne's West, we are inviting all men and people who don't identify as a gender to find out how you can be an ally to end violence against women. You can find out more about this on Women's Health West's website. Allyship is a really important part in prevention of violence, just as it is in all the different areas that our guest speakers will be speaking about tonight. When we have allies and activists, we can really shift and shape the world, as we've seen with the Black Lives Matter movement, with the movement supporting our Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander communities. It's the exact same for gender equality and prevention of violence against women. So I'm really happy to have this event being held, to hear about what an activist looks like in a different format, whether that's for the environment, online, on social media, whatever it may be. And unfortunately, I can't participate in this whole event tonight, but I am really glad that I've been able to introduce this to you And before I duck off, I'll open up to any questions if anybody had anything they wanted to ask me.
Thanks for that introduction, Jacinta. I think it provides a really great framework for our discussion, and how we can connect acts of kindness to that as well, I guess, through having allies in our community. So yeah, thank you for that introduction.
Yeah, perfect. No worries at all, Piers. Best of luck for tonight's sessions. I'm really glad it's being recorded so I can watch it at a later date. And I hope you guys have an amazing night. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Jacinta. So I might hand over to Kerry and Erica now, who are founding Moonee Valley's newest friends group. And Kerry and Erica are going to interview Amy with a few questions around this topic.
Thanks, Tiffany. It's our pleasure, Kerry, Erica, to introduce Amy Churchhouse, founded the Good Karma Network to provide a safe space for people to be able to ask for help from their neighbours. The compassionate exchanges between people break down barriers to connection and are inspiring more of the same. So we've only just met Amy through this webinar. Yeah. And Amy, as a result, we were looking up your Facebook page and your website, and the work that you do and your team is amazing.
It's absolutely incredible. And so what actually inspired you to start the Good Karma Network right in those very early years?
Well, at the time that I started, I actually was dealing with some pretty massive challenges in my life. And when I lost my cat and couldn't find him, I sat down on my couch and thought about all of the people that were experiencing challenges like I was, that were living in houses around me, because I'm really lucky and I was struggling on a major scale. And I thought, if I'm really lucky and I'm struggling, then there's got to be thousands of other people out there struggling with all sorts of things. And I thought, what can I do with what I have to make things better? I just wanted to help people live better lives. I wanted them to be able to connect with people and help solve each other's problems, to find a way to connect us so that we could actually share our knowledge, skills, experience, and resources to help with finding solutions to each other's challenges. I wanted to create a safe place for people to ask for help from their neighbors. And I didn't really know what to do. So I looked around and I looked at social media and I thought, oh, Facebook's got this groups function. Bizarrely, it was quite new only 4.5 years ago, the groups function. And I thought that's a good way for everybody to come together, and then we can have just the people from Kensington, because I was in Kensington, I am still in Kensington, together, and we can, create an environment that's online where people can come along and they can ask for help from other people. Can I borrow a saw rather than buy one? Can I, does anybody know about composting in the area? Because I don't want my green waste to go to landfill. I've lost my cat. Has anybody seen him? I've lost my keys, I've lost my wallet. My car's broken down. Can somebody help me, please? It might be a little problem, it might be a huge problem. But before COVID, social isolation was one of the biggest health risks of our time. And I kind of looked around and went, this in our very privileged Australian world, it's not right that we are by ourselves struggling with our problems, because there's lots of us out there to help us. We just don't know them because they're in the doors next door. So yeah, anyway, I created a Facebook group for my neighbors to help each other out. And I also looked at social media and went, what are the things that are alienating people from each other? Not only in, social media, but particularly because I was using it. And I thought, I don't want people to be alienated by what's here, because it needs to be a safe place. If people are going to ask for help, they're going to need to know that they're not going to be judged for needing some help. And I think there's huge barriers out there to asking for help. And I really wanted to create a safe place to do that. So I made the rules simply no selling, no advertising, no negativity, and anything that's offered is done so with no expectation of anything in return. So I didn't want it to be transactional. There's plenty of places on the internet to sell things. I didn't want people to be promoting their businesses, because there's plenty of places to do that. And if you have a business, then you have a budget, so you should advertise somewhere where you can pay for it. Yeah, I wanted this to be about individual to individual help, and about what people need, not what I want. You know what I mean? So that was what happened, and it's sort of how I got started.
That's great, Amy. Second question, can you tell us what has happened as a result of the connections people have made? We actually saw a couple of stories on your website, which
So
were
many things. In fact,
amazing.
you know what? I could actually probably say everything. Everything has probably happened as a result of connections on Good Karma Networks. You know, we've had people, we had a cat rehomed after 8 months through a Good Karma Network. We've had stolen bikes rehomed through Good Karma Networks. We've had actually the Coburg Good Karma Network singles group started out of the Coburg Good Karma Network, because they're like, we really like the values of the people here. We'd like to connect with them in person, you know, for meeting people. So there's been gatherings, there's been people that have been helped in dire straits. You know, somebody raised money for one of our local businesses who had to shut because his wife was suffering from postnatal depression. I mean, this is real life stuff. And you know what happens when you help somebody with a real life problem is it feels really good, and you feel valuable. And you know what, all of us can do that. Every one of us can do that. You don't have to be a lawyer, accountant, doctor, psychologist, counselor. In fact, those labels just make you skilled in an area, but it's the rest of our lives, it's the things that we've lived in our lives that actually make us valuable to each other. And you know, when somebody goes help and somebody else goes, hey, I've done that, this is what I did, hey, it's okay, I got through that, is when you actually believe that you can. So yeah, I'm pretty sure anything and everything, people have had rides to the airport, people have been supported through hard times. We had some people, you know, say, hey, you know, this is a little bit embarrassing, but I don't have any food, does anybody have some food? And you know, the community rallies, just like, of course, yes, come around for dinner, what do you need? I had one woman, you know, the tears just won't stop flowing, I need a shout out from the community, you know. And of course there's recommendations, there's, you know, I'd like some help reducing my impact on the environment, could you please help me by rehoming this item, you know, or I'd like to actually prefer not to buy this because I don't want to consume things, so does somebody have something that they're not using that I could use? And you know, everybody out, somebody out there's got what you need, whatever it is, and probably surplus to requirements. I remember one time I asked if people, there was a woman who was doing a conference and wanted to use cups rather than plastic cups, so she wasn't going to, you know, put more plastic cups. And we collected some of them, and I said, how many cups have you got? She said 27. I said, oh, you know, I'll look after the ones in Kensington, because she was moving to somewhere else. And I put a call out on a Sunday morning, said, hey guys, we're doing this, you know, conference, anybody got any cups? Next day I had 200 cups in my living room. Like, if this is how many cups people have got, what else have people got surplus to requirements in their houses, right? So if you're on a Good Karma Network and you need something, ask there first. You're never any worse off if you don't get it, right? But if you get it, then you've done the environment a good, you know, good deed. You've saved money. You've done, yeah, everything, and you've got rid of somebody else's clutter. Anyway, so yeah, there you go. Lots of stuff.
Sorry, we muted
That's
ourselves. Right. The third question, Amy, is what does being an ally mean to you?
Well, you know, I think, you know, this is, as Jacinta said, you know, this is about essentially being a good human. You know, it's like being there to see people, to when people need you. And I think that the interesting thing is that often we are so busy that we're not paying attention to other people. So I think being an ally is paying attention, is connecting with people, is looking at people and going, hey, you okay? You know, like, hey, I'm here with you. Brené Brown has a great quote, and she says, connection is the energy between people when they feel seen, heard, and valued, when they can give and receive without judgment, and when they derive sustenance from the relationship. And, you know, obviously being an ally, you know, that would be being a really good ally, but just noticing that people are, you know, not okay, or maybe need some support, or just noticing that there's something not quite right. And to notice, you have to be paying attention. You have to have your eyes up. You have to be engaged with people. You know, you have to say hello to people. So for me, being an ally is about being together, because I believe that together we can do anything. We can achieve anything. We can support anything. So it's yeah, that's sort of what I believe being an ally is. Awesome.
That was
Thank
great.
you.
Yeah, really good.
So I think it's my turn to introduce Theresa Day. So Theresa has supported multiple community initiatives. Sorry, did I jump in there, Tiff? Did you want to say something?
I was slow because I was on mute. So I had a pause there.
Take it and go. Is
But
there something else?
Take it away, Amy. That's fantastic.
Excellent. Well, yes, I have the pleasure of introducing Theresa Day, who supported multiple community initiatives and is a founding member of the Moonee Valley Sustainability, a community of people in Moonee Valley that has gained energy and momentum as a thriving network working towards a sustainable future. So tell us, Theresa, how did Moonee Valley Sustainability get started?
Ironically, we started very organically, which very similar to yourself, through people having conversations, and not necessarily conversations in the same space at the same time, but you know, one person here having a conversation with somebody here having a conversation with somebody here, and all these little dots slowly but surely linking up with these little lines, almost to create like a bit of a circuit, I suppose. And then a couple of years ago, we had what we call our light bulb moment, a solar powered, obviously, light bulb moment. A few of us went to a climate strike in the city. It was the big one with about 200,000 people. And I just don't think anybody who went to that could have come away not wanting to do more, because the energy from that was just incredible. So a few of us just got together after that and said, right, that's it, we need to do something. We were just absolutely pumped from just knowing that you're not by yourself, and you could see that other people felt just as passionately about something so important as climate action. So we decided to do something. So the first thing we decided to do was just to try and just put the feelers out and just see what the community felt. And we got a petition going online, which is probably, you know, not the most ideal thing to start with, because you're kind of asking other people to do stuff for you, which is not what we're about. But we got a petition going online to get Moonee Valley Council to sign up to a movement called the Declaration, or the Climate Emergency Declaration. And we got, I can't remember how many, I think it's about just over 1,200 signatures to that. And we literally hit the streets pre-COVID, face-to-face, chatting to people. And it was just so valuable to have those face-to-face interchanges and talk to people about climate change, break down a few barriers. Possibly some people were talking about it openly for the first time, and just got people to sign up. And amazingly, the council actually, you know, went through the motions and actually agreed to sign up to the Climate Emergency Declaration. And essentially, we've just, you know, we're an organisation that's sort of organic still, but we're kind of a little bit strategic. But I think because of the way communities move and change, you can't be too tight. So we've been really conscious about doing that, you know, not being really having these as priorities and sticking to them. Because what we try and do is, if people come to us with ideas, we like to be able to sort of help them and nurture them. And I don't think you can do that very well if you're really clear on what your priorities are. So when people ask me about how we're so, I says, oh, we're just organically strategic. You know, we just do what we need to do when we've got people who can do it, but we have a framework that we fit it in around. And I think one of the key things that we do constantly now is we use let's be the change. So if we're going to, you know, if we want change, then we have to be it ourselves. So rather than going knocking on doors constantly saying you need to do this and you need to do this, we say, look, we're going to do this because this is important. How about you help us do this? So there's like an exchange, and there's like, you know, everyone's got their parts to play. So I just think if you go knocking on people's doors complaining and asking them to do something different or change, and if you're not doing it yourself, you know, you don't come from a very good place. So that's sort of our focus, basically, is about let's be the change.
Yeah, people don't respond well to being told what to do they?
No,
we've got to inspire them by role modeling how we want them to be, and well, not how we want them to be, just doing what is the right thing for us.
Exactly. And people see it. People can see stuff. Some people just need to see it.
That's it. Yeah, and absolutely. I think this is, yeah, anyway, I'll talk with you about that later. Sorry, it's not This is your day, gig. I can keep talking with you about this. Anyway, anyway, tell us what difference has it made in the community?
I guess there's sort of two, in terms of our community, there's two communities. There's us as a community, you know, as in sustainability communities, like the organisations that we work with and individuals that we work with. You know, having MVS, or sorry, Moonee Valley Sustainability, is really connected that community. So now we're just bigger and we're stronger, and we know who to go to get help. You know, if something's cropping up over in this side about trees, and we ring so and so. You know, so it's made us really, really sort of connecting up those active, really passionate activists. It's just made us a lot stronger. It's also, in terms of that community as well, it's made us a lot higher energy, I think. You know, we have some crazy ideas and we laugh and we joke. And I think if we come across as a community that's having fun, we generally seem to attract more people. So that's been quite interesting. But in terms of the sort of the wider community, you know, we've basically managed to attract and mobilize other people. So, and what we try and do is when people come to us with ideas, or they might just want to come and just make one simple change, because we're better connected now. So if you come to us and, you know, you already know what to do with waste and, you know, zero plastic living, but you have absolutely no experience or knowledge or contacts with like solar power, for example, or how to grow your vegetables, we can instantly enable people to move from one section to the other and join the dots, which never really happened before, because, you know, if you're into gardening, you go to a gardening club and it kind of ended there. Or if you go to, you know, a waste talk, then it kind of just ends there. So that's what Moonee Valley, I think, has done, because we've connected ourselves, enables other people when they come in to move through those different areas. So I think you've already mentioned the word connection, I don't know how many times, and I think that's key. It's just constantly just connecting people. And we do a lot online through Facebook, which, you know, it's got its pros and cons, but we also focus on doing it face to face, which obviously hasn't been possible so much this year, but it is a real focus of us, like constantly face to face, because that's really where the connections happen at a completely different level.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? You know, the sharing of that, you know, you've said connection. And I think when we're connected and we see each other and we're open to that, you know, which is about creating a safe space, we actually learn from each other. And we're like, oh, look, they're composting. I've never even thought about composting before. I might try composting, you know, and being able to just, as you said, visibility, you see that on Good Karma Networks all the time, you know, people are like, oh, I might just try doing that because that's a better idea for the environment, or, and they're not being told what to do. So it's great. Yeah. So now tell us what to you, what does being an ally mean?
Well, I think it's for us, or for me really, because I'm only one individual of an absolute army of about 30 to 40 core members, and probably 1,000 or beside that. I think just listening and learning from others is key, I think, in terms of an ally, and understanding where individuals come from, because, you know, especially when it comes to environmental issues and climate change, not everyone is coming from the same place at the same pace. And, you know, we have to accept that and just, you know, work with what we've got and what they're interested in and just take it from there. I have to say the Good Karma Network's been amazing for us, because, you know, we as an organisation beg, borrow and nearly steal most things, and we run on the smell of an oily rag, and we use the Good Karma Network constantly to put call out to people, to, you know, we need this, can you get it for us? We've just procured an inflatable earth for the Good Karma Network for a party on Saturday, if anyone wants to come along. So it's very useful. But yeah, in terms of other things like allies, you know, I'm a great believer in many hands make light work. And, you know, we could not do half the things that we do without people constantly just putting their hand up going, yeah, I'll do that, sounds great. You know, because that's the sort of people we've got in our sort of little section or group. They're just brilliant. So the other thing I've already mentioned is just like face to face. I just think, I know it's ironic because we're virtually meeting right now, but you just can't beat face to face. And it has been pretty devastating this year not being able to crack on. We haven't probably done as much as we could have done or what we wanted to have done this year because of COVID. But, you know, it's also given us a time to sit back and reflect a little bit. And because of a number of things have gone on because of COVID and other things, we've had a chance to really sit down and work out what our priorities for next year. So it's not all bad in terms of us as an organisation. It's probably enabled us to take a bit of a deep breath. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it really in terms of an ally. Just listening, connecting.
Absolutely. It's a bit of theme, some themes coming on here, isn't there, really?
Yeah,
Anyway.
connectivity is key.
Yeah,
Well,
and
I get the delightful job now of introducing Kerry and Erica. Or is it Erica and Kerry? I don't know. I don't want to cause any arguments. But they are the founding coordinators of our latest Friends group in Moonee Valley, Friends of Woodlands Park. And over the past couple of months, these neighbours have been caring for the Woodlands Park, which is an absolute beautiful space. And I'm sure it's much more than just picking up litter, but I would love to hear more about it. So I'd like to know from you, how did you guys get started?
Well, it was very organic, really. Kerry, once we come out of Woodlands Park, has undergone a massive refurbishment, and it was actually fenced off during the COVID lockdown and curfew as well. So once curfew was lifted, all of a sudden the park became available for use. So Kerry was going down there walking with her dogs and couldn't help but notice the rubbish, and it's litter, broken glass, cigarette butts, bottle tops, you name it, it's down there. So Kerry actually just started picking up. And then I actually saw that being notated on the Strathmore community Facebook page, that there was a lovely lady down at the park picking up rubbish. And I'm thinking, actually, I think that's Kerry. So I got involved, and we started off just going down to the park early morning and early evening and just picking up rubbish the way, we pick up buckets of rubbish. So we thought that there had to be a better way to collaborate and try to get all the stakeholders involved in the community to try and make a change. We could see that the littering was an issue, but there was also, we've got issues with youth gangs at the moment using the park over during the night at weekends, and they just totally trashed the place. So we've got on, had wonderful inroads with council and also with the police down at Moonee Valley, or Moonee Ponds Police Station. So slowly we're gaining traction, and really we've only been going for 2 months, and we think that we've achieved quite a lot in that time frame. So, and we actually met with the councillors today, the new councillors and the mayor today. So
that's pretty impressive to have done that in the first 2 months, I'd say.
Yeah, so there's nothing more that we need to do, really.
And
well done.
It's funny, Theresa, because where you say you've kind of been held up a bit because of COVID, we've been activated and motivated as a result of COVID because we've been, as neighbours and in our street, we've been spending probably a lot more time together doing yoga out the front and all kinds of things. But we've been looking for ways because a lot of people, and I know this is the case for us, is that we're involved also in other voluntary aspects of the community. However, a lot of them have shut down over COVID because you couldn't do it face to face. I volunteer in a hospital. So that was a huge part missing. It was a big space missing. So it's funny how you talk about, and Amy, you were talking about this, how it gives you pleasure to be part of something. It gives you pleasure to be part of a community. And I think that when you have it and you lost it, then you're really looking to get it back again because it becomes part of your psyche. It becomes part of your life. And I think it's really important. But it was the rubbish that started us, but it's just become so much more, hasn't it?
Yeah, a whole lot more. And I think once we can do something with the youth gangs that are using or abusing the park, and it's not the only park that's getting used and abused the way it is within the Valley region. I think that's a real community stakeholder engagement piece that, everyone has a responsibility to try and help these people get through whatever they're going through. So I
think it's a really interesting thing you've pointed out there. That's the first time we've used the R word of responsibility. A lot of the things, when you see issues or things that aren't right, actually having the responsibility to sort of step up and say, well, I could ask somebody to sort that out for me, but you know what? Maybe I should just crack on and do it myself.
Yeah.
So what has the response been like in the park and the community around there? The people joining you and leaping in, or they're saying thanks, or what's happening?
Oh, you're doing such a marvellous job. You haven't picked up that bottle over there. Look, I'll start. I think it's been a real eye-opener for me, having not really been involved in the community until this opportunity. I guess it's a real mindset as well, that people can walk past rubbish and ignore it. Or they'll see someone else picking it up and they'll just think, oh, that's someone else's job. So we have conversations with many people down there, and we start off by telling them that we're a volunteer group and we've decided to make a change within the park. Some of them will say, oh, fantastic, that's great, where do I sign up, sort of thing, like Kirsty has, which has been unbelievable. But then you'll get others that live fairly close by and they'll go, oh, great job, keep it going, and then just walk away. And you kind of think, you try to expand on the conversation, saying that this is your backyard too. We're 3 blocks away. We don't hear what goes on at night. So it's change. It's managing that change process and getting people more aware of what they actually do have and how lucky and privileged we are to have such a wonderful resource at our doorstep. So.
And we've had people not just say they want to be involved, we have people who do things. So Kirsty's down there, as she said this afternoon, she's teaching her young son about picking up rubbish and looking after the park and caring for the animals. And we had another lady who lives on the peripheral of the park. We did a letter drop at one point to say hi, because we're taking a multifaceted approach to everything, really. So we've got social media, we've kind of involved as many people as we can. My son did us up a beautiful logo for our new group. There was another lady who came up to us just a couple of weeks ago, and she helps us pick up on a Saturday morning now, and she said she was looking for something because she's been working from home. She's felt very isolated through COVID. She needed something to do. She went out to a letterbox and there was our flyer, and she goes, that's it. So we've had lots of different responses, but I think we've been really overwhelmed because when we talk about the community response, it's also the community beyond the residents. So we've got a lot of people we know who have said, yep, want to get involved, love the idea of doing this, love the idea of eventually having jazz afternoons in the park, getting community together. But we've been really, really impressed, as Erica was saying before, with the response from the police, from the council, from, embracing us. And we had a 3-hour meeting one morning with a lady who lives local, but she's been involved in a couple of historical Friends of Woodlands Park, which died out for different reasons. There wasn't social media back then and all of that kind of thing. But we've sat with her for 3 hours and she gave us generously of her time, showed us photos of what it looked like, Woodlands Park looked like in the 1800s. Yeah. It was incredible, all of them.
I think you've touched on a really important point now in terms of, when you're setting yourself up, I think one of the first steps is, if you want to do something, is look out to see what's already out there and build capacity of something that already exists.
Yeah.
And then if there's a gap or there's a hole, obviously this is where we're talking with you, there was a need, you turn around and you look for other similar groups and say, right, okay, how have they done it? Or if they did that in the past, what worked, what didn't work? And actually just to save, time and energy, and just, there's no point reinventing the wheel. I think that's really, really important. I think when you're running some kind of not-for-profit activism type organisation such as yourselves. So,
and I think
I've got to ask you one other question, if you don't mind, and that's about, what does being an ally mean to you guys, both of you?
I think look, when we've sat here and listened to Amy and you, Theresa, about how you answered that question, both of you, I think that's kind of mind-blowing, because you've said so much and so much resonated with us, and you said it, articulated it so well that it was beautiful. And I think trying to think what it means to us is, I guess that, and Erica will add to this, but I think it's it's consciously being part of a solution, but knowing you're only one part of a jigsaw puzzle, and understanding that you have to have that we have a very open mind to inviting people in, to being part of it, to having ideas. We're not the only ones who have ideas. We listen to other ideas and embrace that and encourage it, and thinking that we're a small piece in a puzzle to look after a beautiful open shared space. The police have a part, the you know, everyone we're meeting, all of the tradespeople have a part. And I think it's building up relationships with like-minded people with you know, end goals in mind, but because it's a bit organic, to not be so fixed on just having these goals, to also kind of learn things as you go along, meet new people. And I think it's being part of a diverse community, and the more people that we get to know from the community, there are some that we feel frustrated with different things, but in general we are meeting so many amazing people and understanding how we can all fit together to come up with an amazing community-based approach to caring for Woodlands Park. And I think that's been amazing for us to see.
And I think it's not just caring about the park itself, but it's caring about the people that use the park.
Yeah.
And to me, being an ally is to be a collaborator, and to know that you're only one person up, and there is so much wealth out there for ideas and education and behavioural discussions. Look, I have great hopes for the group, and I have great hopes for the park. It's early days, and unfortunately we're still in a very reactive phase of the group, where we're, you know, we are collecting rubbish, and very proud of what we collect.
I think it's a really important thing. I always say that I think litter is the barometer of a community a little bit, in a way, because it comes down to respect and responsibility, doesn't it? So, but I also understand that really you almost need to keep it clean initially for people to enable to keep it clean, if that makes sense. Because
exactly.
You just out by yourself picking up one piece, and then they're out by one piece, and you just think, oh, you almost need like a clean slate to think, oh, you know, this is what it's about. And then when people see our bit, they might pick it up themselves.
I think we had an interesting thing. We had an interesting thing happen today, and I think it really highlights the fact that you are an ally and you're not the solution. Because when we met with the councillors, one of the things on our list was there are hundreds of people using that park. There is one toilet, and that's like all sorts of issues with that. So anyway, we have that on our list. Yet before we were even able to say it today, the councillors said to us that one of them had raised it as a motion at the recent council meeting. It had been approved. So before we even got to say this is one of our kind of issues, they came up and said it's solved. So it'll take a bit of time, but they've got a temporary solution for over summer as well, when there's a lot of people. So that highlighted to us, we're not the only ones. We're coming in advocating from this side, but there's lots of other people advocating from different directions. And if we can all meet, it just becomes a powerful force, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
No, it's good. Yeah, amazing.
Can I put in a comment here, please?
Absolutely.
I'm sorry you can't see me. I've got no idea what's happened to the camera on our laptop, but never mind. I'm not that pretty. What I would like to say is I'm an ally. I've been doing bird counts in Woodlands Park since 2014. I originally, my background is when I retired, I was it was suggested to me that now that I was retired, while I'm out there recording frogs, I might as well count the birds at the same time. So I got hooked into counting the birds. And Melbourne, it's one of my count sites for bird data. So it's, and also I've been taking photographs of the wildlife, the bird life, particularly bird life there, seasonally for the last 6 or 7 years. So that can be all made available what I plan to do, if it's all right with you, Kerry and Erica, was I will place all the photographs I've taken of the wildlife in Woodlands Park into a site which is called Flickr, which is then you can just then get a link to the album, and that could be available and could be a resource just to let people know that while during the renovation it sort of doesn't look like there's a lot of wildlife there, but I've had counts of 150 to 200 birds down at Woodlands Park on any one single count. And I'd really love to add that to another string to the bow of people caring for the park.
That's awesome.
Oh,
Thank you,
Louisa,
Anna.
we would love
Was that Anna?
Can I add something?
Who was that Anna or?
There's Anna.
Yes, Anna.
Yeah, Anna Lanigan.
Anna,
Yeah,
Anna.
yeah.
Anna, that's amazing. And in fact, we have a question for you, which has been really, well, one, I don't know if you've seen our website, but there was a beautiful lady down there, another lady that we've met who found a 20 frogmouth owl and kind of rescued it, and it's kind of in place. But one of the questions that we had was, our logo has a dusty moorhen bird, and the reason it has a dusty moorhen bird is because my son's doing an environmental degree through Monash. It's called Global Challenges, and one of his assignments was on dusty moorhens and their breeding patterns. And he actually did an assignment with some of his students down at Woodlands Park.
Oh, lovely.
We've got it on our thing, but we've never seen one. So have you got a picture of a dusty moorhen from Woodlands Park?
Certainly. Yeah, they yes, I have, and I believe they are back despite the big renovation. I think they will come back soon. But yes, the moorhens definitely were probably, I'll be able to give you some sort of stats on how many times I would have seen particular birds. So, but the dusky moorhens probably were seen probably in about at least 90% of my counts there. They were always there, and they've bred there. They usually have a couple of chicks each year, but when the renovation took place, it was a bit tricky. And of course I couldn't get in. First of all, I couldn't get in because of the renovation and all the fences around it. Then, of course, the pond was dug up anyway and emptied for the renovation. But what's going to be really exciting for the group, for your group, and your son will love this too, is to how the wildlife will actually come back. How long will it take them to get back to the pre-renovation levels? And I think this is going to be quite an interesting thing. We've got many examples in the western suburbs of areas that have been regenerated. A particularly good example is the Jacana wetlands, which straddles the Western Ring Road, and that was just a paddock. And within a couple of years, within about 2 or 3 years of that paddock being filled up with water, you had endangered growling grass frogs in it. So it's a case of build it and they will come. So I've got every confidence that all of the unusual birds, like the Nankeen night herons, the white-faced herons, the pied cormorants, the great cormorants, they'll all come back.
Amazing,
this is going to be a wonderful thing, and to watch the birds actually return to the space and reclaim it. The wood ducks have come back almost straight away. You can't keep them away, which is really great. And they've had families. They've got a family.
Something, Anna. I think that what you're offering here to Friends of Woodland Park that I think is really fantastic is an opportunity to show that there is other value to the park, as in it's a habitat. There are other things living here, and there are other things to care about here other than the rubbish, and that's actually another reason to care about what we're doing here. And I think that's a really interesting one when you add a different dimension to the like, let's not just pick up rubbish. Let's realize that this is a really valuable resource for lots of things.
Yeah.
And then the benefits to that is that the children get to learn about the birds, and that and then we get to see breeding, and I think that's a really great way to inspire people. So it's great that you're able to offer that to Kerry and Erica to help them with their group. So
yes,
that's fantastic.
The ducks and everything else certainly form a huge part of our conversations with people. So Anna, that is fabulous to have that depth of knowledge.
It makes me wonder. Sorry, it makes me wonder too if people do want to get involved with the groups that our speakers have talked about tonight. What is the best way to get involved?
Well, I think Facebook page for us, but we also have met people who don't have, who aren't on social media. Some of them have said, well, I'll join Facebook just to do it. But we also, that's why we kind of did letter drop as well. We're really relying on having conversations with people. So we say we've had conversations with 5 people today. So I think that we're also going to the council and other people, I'm sure that this is a thing as well, that the environmental section of the council, their green newsletter, they've said that we could push an advert in there. We've shared on Strathmore community page. And I think also we were going to probably, there's a lot of schools that are doing things in Woodlands Park. They've got an affiliation with North Essendon Primary School, who have actually drawn the beautiful pictures of the ducks on the bridge. So we were actually thinking along the lines of perhaps going to the local schools and seeing what programs, and I know that Moonee Valley are running some programs. So I think that we'll tap into schools as well because of the animals, because there is going to be the little turtles were relocated to Monash in Clayton, and they're going to come back. So how lovely to have community and school groups to see that process, because then it creates this ownership of that. So I think that's the answer for us, different things.
Theresa?
I think you guys are going to have to be careful, because I think you're the first off the block. You're like a friends group of a park, and I think there's a lot of parks in Moonee Valley, so you might be getting loads of phone calls saying, hey, we want to set one up for AJ Davis Reserve in Airport West, and we want to set one up for Queen's Park in Moonee Ponds, and hey, we want to set up, and then you'll be, how'd you do it? You'll be you're pioneers.
Well, we would love that to happen.
I agree.
It's not a new concept at all. There's with Woodlands Park, we're probably the 3rd reiteration of a Friends of Woodlands Park throughout its history. And it seems to happen at big events. So for us, it was COVID and the refurbishment of the park. Previous years, it's also been refurbishments at the park. So the actual wetland system is totally different to what it was originally. So history shows throughout the ages that whenever there is a big change, whether it gets people thinking outside of the box, I guess, as well, thinking about what that space actually means to them as a person, or as an individual, and then as part of a bigger community. So.
And what about? Sorry. And what about? Sorry, go ahead, Anna.
No, you first.
I was just going to ask Theresa, what's the best way to get involved with Moonee Valley sustainability?
Well, similar to the Friends of Woodlands, we've obviously got a Facebook page, and this weekend we're actually launching our website, which is pretty exciting. So that will be launched at a picnic we're having this weekend. No offence, guys, but it's going to be in Queen's Park. There's more toilets there. I'm just joking. It's more central, honestly. I would have organised it for Woodlands Park if I'd met you before.
When is it? Where is it?
So it's going to be at Queen's Park on Saturday at 12:30. So that's a really good chance for you to come and have a chat to us. Obviously with COVID, we have to be careful with numbers. So there is a booking which you can hook into through our Facebook page. But yeah, and normally we are at 78 St Leonard Road, which is like a community hall attached to a church. It's called nicknamed Dwell, and we're there every 3rd Saturday of the month doing all sorts of crazy sharing, repairing and caring stuff. So we've got that's where the little free pantry is. That's got their little free pantry. and the repair cafe turn up, boomerangs bags turn up, sharing shed turn up, and we just have this sort of big session and get together of, you know, sharing, repairing and caring, hence the name. We're not very original. Yeah.
I think Logan's put the website link in the chat there too.
Oh, did he? Oh,
Yeah.
well done, Logan. He knows I'm not very technically minded. He knows I can't multitask.
And
He backs
Amy,
me up and I back him up.
and Amy, for people who are watching and haven't joined up with the Good Karma Network and are interested, how's the best way to get involved?
So guess what? We've got a bunch of Facebook groups, just like everybody else. It's interesting though, actually, when we say that, because I know that that's a challenge. There's an advantage to being on Facebook, but there's also challenges around that. But anyway, it is accessible to anybody on the internet. It is free at the moment. So we are using Facebook groups. So search whatever suburb you live in and Good Karma Network. In Moonee Valley, we have Ascot Vale. Flemington is part of the Kensington one, so you can join Kensington if you're in Flemington. But Ascot Vale, we have Pascoe Vale, we have Essendon Good Karma Network, Niddrie Good Karma Network. I'm not sure quite how far up Moonee Valley goes, but I think that covers all of them.
I think there's an Aberfeldy one too.
Yes, that's not connected to us.
Okay.
So that's not an official Good Karma Network. It was inspired by us, but it's not connected to us, so it might have a different feel. And you know, I don't have any qualms of people doing that, but you know, the support that people get, and yeah, we have 120 administrators in our Good Karma Network Guardians group, which is the group of people that look after Good Karma Networks. So there's 37 Good Karma Networks across 4 states of Australia, with a combined total of about 115,000 members. So lots of people helping people in lots of different places, in lots of different ways. So yeah, but yeah, so you know, tell your friends, and if you, of course, you want to get one started, then you can go to our website, which I'm just about to put into the finder. Yeah, you can look for our network finder, or you can inquire about starting a network, but it's not easy. So I'm happy to talk with you about it, and happy to support you through it. But we really focus on an empowerment. We don't have any resources. We don't have a sustainability model. You know, a revenue model, business model that is helping us. We are a charity now, which is great. But yeah, we rely on the goodwill of lots and lots of volunteers to run, as per most of the people. And interesting, actually, Erica and Kerry, you were talking about contribution, and you know, I think that's a really interesting thing, because you sort of said, oh, you know, people like to do it, but I actually think it's something that actually is kind of like a fundamental human value, is participation and contribution is what we do as a species on the planet, because we are just animals, but that's what helps us to thrive, is being able to contribute to the well-being of an ecosystem, of another person, of a it gives us purpose to help something, to be with something, to fix something. It gives us purpose. And I think that's something that lots of people are searching for, because they're not getting it from their jobs.
Yes.
You know, just interesting. So yes, come and join us, come and help. We love people helping.
Well, I want to thank all of our speakers for the webinar tonight. I've had some technical difficulties, so I had a poll to launch, but perhaps you could watch your email inboxes, and I might send something through a little bit later. And we've just got a couple of minutes left, so I just wanted to open the floor if there's any other questions or comments that people would like to add.
I think it's quite interesting that we're all on Facebook. You know, it's I love it, but I hate it. And I just wanted to say that, you know, if you get dispirited with using Facebook, don't panic, you're not alone. It just, don't be lulled into false sense of security either, as well. You know, in terms of activism, you think you've got 700 members or whatever it is on there, and you send something out on a post and you only get like 2 people responding and that sort of stuff. But it's really quite dispiriting. So as an organisation, it's like I say, it's still important to pick up the phone, chat to people,
absolutely,
and face to face.
We've been really pleased.
Knowing
we've been talking to the Garbos that we do find out that we do come across down at the park from the council, and all of them have said, oh yes, we're following the Friends of Woodlands Park Facebook page now. So everyone that we've spoken to from the council realise that there's a problem, and it's not just within Woodlands Park, but they're really excited to be part of a change process. So that to us has been really quite innovating. So we're really happy with the way.
And I think people watch for a long time as well before they actually voice up or take part as well.
Yeah.
So you might only be getting so much feedback, but I think you're probably hitting a lot more. But it's really important to have backup as well, I think, other ways to meet and connect with people. It sounds like you're doing loads of it already. But yeah, like I say, connecting is key, isn't it?
I totally agree with you, Theresa. And I think that one of the things that I've recognized, and one of the reasons why Good Karma networks have been so successful, is that they patch the gaps. They help people actually when they're not being helped by the places that are supposed to help them, or when something lets them down, they actually have somewhere else to turn. And that connection between all of the people means that if that guy who normally helps you isn't there, somebody else is. And so that, and this is where, you know, our organizations should all be connected. It's like, you know, I've started a Facebook group, so shall I help you? That's why I started the Good Karma Effect, to help the other Good Karma Networks guardians. Was like, if somebody else is going to do it, I've just learned a whole lot of stuff and been through a whole lot of hard stuff that I don't want somebody else to go through. So here, have it. Like, please let me help you, because it's really easy for me to give you what I know and help you. And I can be a backstop, or I can bounce ideas off you. That collaborative approach to anything is so beneficial, because, you know, all of our eyes see different things and we prioritize different things because of the lives that we've led and the things that we've been exposed to. So together we see a much bigger picture than any one of us does, or any two of us do. You know, together there's a much more holistic view and much greater capacity. We've all got different things to offer, which is why doing things together is so much more beneficial than doing them by yourself.
Oh yeah, for sure, definitely. And like you say, just learning from others constantly about what's going on. I think what's interesting with the Good Karma Network actually as well is you probably don't realise half the things that go on, because I know people said, oh, I need this, and it goes, yeah, I've got it, come around and pick it up. And while you're there, you have a 15, 20 minute, half an hour conversation with somebody and made this massive connection. Or, oh my God, you're so-and-so, and you know him, and you can get this for me, and oh, I know them. And before you know it, there's, you know, and you're connecting people at a local level. So I know it goes on online, but I think a lot of it goes on the ground as well. And they really know that person's got a trailer or something, and they can ring you up next time they need it.
But what we're all doing is facilitating that people come together. And once again, as a species, humans are social beings. Guess what? When we started our species, we hung out in groups of people. You know, we didn't have couples and nuclear families, and we hung out and we looked after each other, and we made sure everybody was okay, because if everybody wasn't okay, then we all weren't okay. And that's what we need. You know, COVID has been a very good demonstrator, or shown us very clearly that, you know, we don't do very well when we're by ourselves. You know, like, even when we have everything, we're still not okay. You know, and Zoom just doesn't do it. I want to be with the people. I mean, normally I'm wearing a Free Hugs t-shirt, haven't worn it for about 10 months. You know, not really appropriate at the moment, but you know, it's like, you know, but people need to be together, they need to be physical, they need to be doing stuff, they need to be contributing and feeling value from that energy, as you said before, Theresa, you know, that energy of being in the same space together. It's like, I know I'm okay because you're there. You know,
just collectively doing stuff together. You know, we have like quite good laughs, sort of doing projects that are actually quite hard work, but you know, doing planting and ripping up a nature strips and building pantries and getting up compost bins together and that sort of stuff. Some really disgusting things, really, but you know, if you're having a laugh with the people around you,
we've had many laughs. You have to.
But you know, we were, if not for this, we wouldn't, like, being involved in something also, like, you do learn a lot of skills, but you also meet a lot of new people. And you know, you sort of think over COVID, I watched with my family, we had a family dinner watching David Attenborough, A Life on This Planet, and you just go, what can we do? And you know, you start looking at this, you start looking at that. But if you get involved in something and you start meeting other people, you get so many more ideas. So I just feel like it's like light bulbs going off. And
it's actually proven to be cathartic, you know, in terms of, like, if you look at COVID, I mean, it's quite a traumatic period, but one of the reasons why it's traumatic is because you feel so useless and powerless to be able to be a part of the solution. And it's the same with sort of climate change. You know, that's scary and big, and you know, and it can be quite overwhelming, but if you just make one step forward and then turn around and see somebody else doing something similar with you, and then you both take another step forward and you turn around and somebody else has joined you, and you can see things moving and happening and changing, even on a micro scale, where you know that that's happening here and it's happening over there and it's happening over here. It's cathartic, and you understand that you're part of the solution. And to be honest, it's addictive. You just keep going and keep going.
I think that's one thing for the discussion. And that is, I think, one of the really important points here is because it's community driven, it's sustainable. You're not dependent on government funding. It is a time that's freely given. And I think that that's just so valuable, because it comes from just wanting to share goodwill. And I just think that that's gold.
No, it's brilliant.
Well, thanks again for everyone for their contribution. I think it's really inspired some great discussion, and some of those common themes about connecting and how we are allies to each other are really inspiring. So I'll be interested to see from people who've been listening and watching what this webinar inspires you to do next. And I want to wish you well for the rest of the evening, and bring our webinar to a close. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you,
Great.
Tiffany.
Thanks, Tiffany.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Take care.
One for sharing.
Bye. Pew, pew, pew.
I made a mess of that.